Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show.
Decoding the hidden truths in Matthew Brown's tweet, part 2.
Cosmic Ripples, how the Wall Street Journal hit piece shook the UFO community.
And the final push, how you can help pass the UAPDA.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie. We are back at it again for another episode of UAP Society's weekly UAP News Show. I'm stoked to get started, so without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiasts. It's Justin here, and let's dive right in.
Up first, decoding the hidden truths in Matthew Brown's tweet, part 2. All right, guys, this week the mystery deepens. We're diving back into Matthew Brown's cryptic tweet, and what we've uncovered this time will blow your mind wide open.
Yeah.
Hidden within that one cryptic post were interesting things like a Borimon, the name that apparently only 2 people on Earth knew about until now. And with the help of Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp of WEAPONIZED, and the creator of the very sigil used in that tweet, we've decoded even more layers. Ancient magic, elite symbolism, and eerie links between occult rituals and modern-day UFO disclosure. Didn't see that one coming. From the Dogon tribe's secret knowledge of Sirius to the 1947 Roswell crash to rituals by Jack Parsons and people like L. Ron Hubbard in the same desert where, by the way, Area 51 now happens to be. Yep. This story puts together ancient star knowledge, post-war esoterica, and government secrets like never before. This tea is piping hot, and we are ready to spill some. Let's get into it.
To kick things off, in this next clip, we're hearing from the Matthew Brown whisperer himself, Jeremy Corbell, alongside his weaponized co-pilot George Knapp, as they break down the ripple effects of Matthew Brown's now infamous cryptic tweet.
And I also included some screenshots of some of my favorite parts of the live chat, just because I like doing that. So if you happen to see your name, give us a shout out in the comments and let us know.
But he came out with some stuff, some posts that have people in the UFO world scratching their heads. What the hell is he talking about? What does this mean? And wondering if he went off the deep end. You are the Matt Brown whisperer, so tell us what your take is on the things that he posted.
There's very specific sections that I think people are not understanding, missing, or I want to help clarify to the best of my ability. There's AI assertions, and then there's UAP assertions. But for now, I'll just tell you what I saw. So this is my opinion, what I saw in Matt's tweet. So first thing is the AI assertions. There were 3 main assertions. The first one was that the White House has long possessed a unique AI capable of accurately predicting a range of future events. He also brought up that Sam Altman betrayed Elon, which is a very public thing. And I think people understand a little bit about what that's about in popular culture. But when he was talking about, murdering a synthetic sentience, from what was in the public realm, to be clear, he's talking about Sam Altman. He's the assertion is that Sam Altman, and why he was thrown out of the company, is because he quote unquote murdered or deleted, or however you want to say it, a true AGI or synthetic sentience. When he got to the UAP assertions, that's what was really kind of interesting. And it's kind of easy to decode, but I want to give you a little more information. When he talks about it, and he mentions the year 1947, knowing Matt, that's not just about Roswell. I think he's also implying the founding of the U.S. national security state. And I think that's also like a double meaning to that year and why he put that in there. Matt is saying that we do have some understanding how UAP UFOs work. And that's something we've talked a lot about before. So the takeaway in total that I think people should walk away with from Matthew Brown's post, basically those calling for catastrophic disclosure, he believes are not currently equipped to recognize when that happens. And the fear is that we will miss it because it will happen right in front of our eyes and we will fall into some struggle of cognitive dissonance with no clear map out. That's kind of what Matt is feeling, that our leaders have not equipped us at the public at large level to handle the truth about UAP. And the easy way out for us is to kind of turn to authorities and accept their confirming lies and, just instead of like the uncomfortable truths, whatever they are. So that is really what Matt was saying to you.
Yeah, I mean, we got messages from people who didn't understand it going, what the heck? What's going on? Did he lose his mind? No, his head is solidly on his shoulders. He's a deep thinker, as we've said, and sometimes things that he says go over people's heads. He also mentioned in one of his messages a couple of locations that people should look at other than the Pax River, the Nevada National Security Site, which I've been to dozens of times, and also Dugway Proving Ground. There have been stories about those locations over the years, and this might stir up some new investigations in those directions.
Okay, so the takeaway that I have from that clip is that Chris James asked Jeremy Corbell if he's going to be talking to Matthew Brown again since all of this has occurred, and Jeremy Corbell said yes. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Matthew Brown again post all of this stuff, and see what he has to say.
Absolutely, right, me too.
Yeah, they did that 3-part Immaculate Constellation video interview with Matt Brown. So if you haven't seen that yet, go over to the Weaponized. They have it linked over there, and it would be very, very cool to hear from him now.
Right. All right. Since Jeremy and George already tackled the first 2 paragraphs of Matthew Brown's tweet, we're picking up where they left off, diving straight into paragraph 3, where things get really interesting with that mysterious reference to 1947.
Yeah. All right. Now, to help bring some clarity and drop a few mind-blowing facts that you probably are not even ready for, we've got the creator behind one of the images in Matthew Brown's tweet, the Sigillum de Aemeth. He's the host of the YouTube channel called Lifting the Lamp, and if you tuned in last week, you should definitely recognize him.
The first thing that Matthew Brown mentions that I want to dig into is the star Sirius. He says that getting to Mars will require a serious amount of energy, sort of a play on words. So he's talking about traveling through space, and he's talking about the star Sirius. What's the connection between this and the UAP phenomenon, and is there any connection to the occult? So the Sirius connection, when we're talking about the history of UAP encounters and how they intersect with religion, goes all the way back to recorded history, and even further back than that, several thousand years. There's a tribe in Africa known as the Dogon tribe, who follow a bunch of spiritual entities known as the Nommo, who they credit with giving them knowledge of various sorts, including spiritual knowledge, and descending down from the skies and initiating the first of the sort of magicians in that society. And apparently, the Nommo was said to have come from the star Sirius, and they had understandings of the Sirius star system that they shouldn't have had because they didn't have astronomical technology to be able to see this star system in great detail, is a individual by the name of Robert Anton Wilson. He claims to have had a Sirius contact when he was age 23, a telepathic communication with beings from Sirius. The key aspect of the contact is not being taken up into a spaceship or anything, it's the telepathic communication across vast distances of space. That is the way that the contact takes place. And for Robert Anton Wilson, these beings have been contacting us for many thousands of years, and he actually credits the beginning of the mystery traditions of, different secret societies throughout history passing down esoteric knowledge, the sort of invisible college, you might say. He attributes the start of that among the human race to a Sirius contact, much the same as the Dogon tribe do. Another interesting part of Matthew Brown's post that I'll talk about next, he makes a statement which is quite curious, which is that rockets feel so 1947 to me. Don't they to you? Very mysterious statement, but I know what it means. It has to do with a series of events that connect the year 1947, rocketry, the occult, and the UAP phenomenon. And that is the occult activities of a man called Jack Parsons. So, American rocketry, as we know it today, all comes from a maverick scientist by the name of Jack Parsons. But there were things that were unusual about Jack Parsons, chief of which was that he was an occultist. Parsons saw no contradiction between his scientific endeavours and his more intellectual endeavours and his mystical studies of the occult, much the same as John Dee, who was the classic Renaissance man. And so one of the occult things that Jack Parsons did was a ritual known as the Babylon working, where it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially he was trying to help usher in a new aeon, the end of the old established order and the ushering in of something new that would ultimately be more liberating for the human race. And he incorporated Enochian invocations into his Babylon working. One of the Enochian calls formed part of the ritual. And as part of the Babylon working, Jack Parsons went out into the Mojave Desert with none other than L. Ron Hubbard, or Frata H, who at one time was a close associate of Jack Parsons and also a magician. And the two of them were doing this Babylon working together. In the Mojave Desert, Frata H, L. Ron Hubbard, reports that when they had done the invocation, it tore a hole in the fabric of time and space. 1947 is the year when the flying saucer phenomenon really started to take off in the United States, including the Roswell crash. And interestingly, the Mojave Desert where Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard did the Babylon working is where Area 51 now resides. So many people say that they really did open up a portal to another dimension. That's where the UAPs come from, and they essentially blame Jack Parsons for the whole UAP phenomenon in the first place. But there are other authorities who say that it's because we started using nukes around then. That's why these beings started to take more of an interest in us. I think it's probably the latter, but there could be a magical connection between the coming of the UAPs and Jack Parsons' Enochian invocations as well.
All right, so shout out to that host from Lifting the Lamp, Frata. I can't remember what he said his last name was, but he definitely brought all new aspects to this conversation that I wasn't ready for. I really wasn't. I mean, right. Scientology has entered the chat now. Last week it was the esoteric and the occult stuff entering the UFO chat. Yeah. Now it's Scientology entering the UFO chat. What is going on? Okay, right. So basically, I just want to summarize real quickly what he said. He was making a connection between Sirius and the Dogon tribe in Africa and who they call the Nomo. So the Dogon tribe of Mali, Africa, has ancient knowledge of Sirius, a star system that they shouldn't really have known anything about because they didn't have any means to know about it. Right. At that
they didn't have a telescope to, be able to tell that star system is special.
Right. And they say that their knowledge came from the Nomo, which are amphibious beings from Sirius who communicated with them telepathically. This points to longstanding connection between human cultures and off-world intelligences, possibly through non-physical conscious-based contact. Very interesting concept. And then if you look at that picture that I included of the Sirius star in the beginning of that clip, the white one on the right with the circle and all the things in it, that was something that the Dogon drew. And they said it's basically like the uterus. It's like the egg shape with everything in the egg. Where have we recently heard about an egg-shaped craft? Jake Barber and Skywatch. Hello.
All right. So then in 1947, the same year that the Roswell incident happened, a bizarre convergence of science and the occult was unfolding. So Jack Parsons, a pioneering rocket scientist and practicing occultist, performed a series of rituals known as the Babylon Working in the Mojave Desert alongside with L. Ron Hubbard, who was the future founder of Scientology nonetheless.
I'm telling you. I'm sorry for all this. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so supposedly the rituals were said to open a portal in time and space and a magical experiment with unintended consequences.
Right. I mean, is that the reason why Area 51 is located where it is right now? Did they rip open a hole in time and space that has allowed all these extra dimensional or interdimensional entities to come through and they had to hold down that area to keep it under some sort of control? I don't know.
I mean, so what's out in the public already as far as Area 51 is concerned is the CIA needed a place to test the U-2 spy plane, right? And SR-71. And so they found, or they selected this dry lake bed in the middle of the desert. And it just so happened to be a part of the Nevada test site and range.
Okay.
Right? At least that's what officially has been said.
Okay.
So, it was built to support those aircraft projects, mainly the U-2 spy airplane, and then later on the SR-71 Blackbird.
Okay.
But, I don't know. Could there be another reason behind it?
Possibly.
Don't know.
More likely than not is what I would say.
Okay.
And I was really like questioning this whole like Babylon working Enochian magic ritual in the desert, ripping holes through space-time thing. So like I really wanted to understand the relationship between Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley. So hear me out with what I'm about to share with you. Just hold on, okay? All right, so long before NASA launched rockets, Jack Parsons was mixing explosives and the occult in equal measure. A brilliant rocket engineer and the founder of JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Parsons wasn't just fueling spacecraft, he was also conjuring spirits. Parsons was a devoted follower of Aleister Crowley. The infamous occult behind Thelma, a magical philosophy centered around the command, quote, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," end quote. I didn't write it, okay? I'm just reading it. After joining Crowley's secret society, the OTO, Parsons quickly rose to lead its California lodge, where he blended science with sorcery. Crowley, who was impressed and later a little like intimidated by this, mentored Parsons from afar via letters. And I don't mean emails, I don't mean texts, I mean like actual papers in the mail letters, okay? Then came the wild part, because in 1946, Parsons teamed up with L. Ron Hubbard, yes, the father and founder of Scientology, for a ritual series known as the Babylon Working. Their goal was to summon the divine feminine and open up a portal to birth a new age. Crowley, who was watching from overseas, thought they'd gone off the rails, jumped off the deep end, and called their ritual idiocy in private letters. But Parsons believed he was on the verge of something huge, maybe even tied to otherworldly contact. But then mysteriously, in 1952, in an explosion, Parsons died. But his life left behind an electrifying legacy, a man who helped build the space age while reaching for the stars through rituals. Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
On the UAP News Show. Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I'm still in this reality. I didn't skip a timeline in front of you guys. Okay. And then, oh, by the way, just for funsies, because, you know, the internet does what the internet does. There's this side-by-side picture of Aleister Crowley's son and Matthew Brown that I just thought you should see. I'm just going to leave that there.
I mean, the resemblance is uncanny.
I'm just going to leave that there. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Not trying to say anything,
just leaving it there. Okay, next, let's explore some interesting details from paragraph 4 of Matthew Brown's tweet, specifically focusing on the concept of light-structured energy craft.
And then the other thing that Matthew Brown says, which is quite intriguing, is he talks about the tracking of non-structured light energy craft. By talking about this specific type of UAP, Matt Brown seems to be hinting at a theory of at least certain UAP phenomena, that they're not actually anything to do with technology or metallic discs at all. It's actually something that is a more spiritual manifestation, a kind of a being that inhabits a more spiritual dimension of existence. The angels are very much related to the UAP phenomenon. And in fact, Harold E. Puthoff, who was the director of one of these remote viewing projects to contact the UAP entities, was a Scientologist. So Scientology in turn comes from L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard got all of his best ideas from Jack Parsons, you know, who practiced Enochian magic. And Enochian magic is very connected to these encounters with angelic entities in medieval times, which manifest in modern times as the UAP entities.
Okay, so I did not know Hal Puthoff was involved in Scientology, did you?
No.
Yep, that's news to me.
I never even thought of that being a possibility. And
I knew he did like remote viewing stuff, and he worked at Stanford, and him and Eric Davis are in real tight. And we're still waiting on the Age of Disclosure to come out, because Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis are both in that film, which still doesn't have a release date, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not know he was into Scientology, so that was definitely new to me. But this connection between you know, light beings and UAPs and angels, I mean, I've been saying this since I jumped onto this topic. Like, I really have, because it's like, you know, the vocab and the vernacular of back in the day was angels and demons. That obviously evolves over time. Vocabulary evolves over time. People change the way they say things over time. So it's like, you know, today someone could look up in the sky and say, oh, that's an orb. Whereas if it was like back in the whatever hundreds, someone would look up at the sky, see the same exact thing and be like, oh, look, it's an angel descending upon us to offer us blessings and love. It's like, you know, it depends on your perspective and what your vocabulary is.
Right.
But basically, the whole point of bringing this up is because are angels and aliens and maybe even demons all the same thing? That's the same question I've been having this whole entire time.
Well,
what's the difference?
Well, demons are supposedly just fallen angels.
Right.
Right.
So if a demon is an angel and an angel is an alien, then what's the separational difference?
Right.
Is there a separational difference?
I don't know.
No, either.
I don't know either.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, shifting gears to paragraph 5, let's zero in on Amentum. Sure, this part might feel like we took a wild detour, and honestly, we did. But trust me, it's a journey you won't want to miss.
Yes.
To get this ball rolling, let's hear what Lifting the Lamp had to say.
The next thing I want to talk about is Matthew Brown's reference to special project hangars owned by Amentum Corp. So this is kind of implying that this corporation, Amentum Corp, which is a real corporation, has access to alien technology and maybe cooperates with the government on certain programs. Why Amentum? Why pick this particular corporation? I think it has to do with the name and the choice of name for this particular company. Amentum is clearly a derivative of the Egyptian word amenti, and this is a reference to the Egyptian afterlife. For the Egyptians, the afterlife was this whole other realm of existence with various kinds of cosmic entities within it that the human soul passed through when it passed from this life. And there were said to have been Egyptian magicians who could travel out of their bodies into this realm, and the Egyptian Book of the Dead is all about spells and invocations for the departed soul to be able to navigate through this realm of Amenti. And there was said to be a gateway to Amenti, which is the setting sun. And if you look at the logo of Amentus Corp, it very much looks like an overlay of the setting sun at different stages. So some reference to a gateway to another dimension. And these are the people that are involved in UAP activities. So, it's kind of suggesting that there's a connection between those two.
All right, so Amenti.
Yeah. Gateway to another dimension dealing with Egyptian afterlife.
Yeah. Wow.
And these are the people in charge of making things to blow stuff up. All right, let's keep going. On X, Adam Rossi says, Amentum with a nice new contract win, $4 billion with Space Force. Amentum is a spinoff from Jacobs Engineering. It is still a relative unknown name with a huge backlog in juicy areas like space and nuclear. It's dirt cheap, and they're winning. And by the way, in case you're like me and had never heard of this Amentum Jacobs merge thing, because Amentum is new to me, period, let's take a look at an excerpt from a 2023 article called Amentum Announces Agreement to Merge with Jacobs, Critical Mission Solutions and Cyber Intelligence Businesses. And this article is found on the Amentum website, and it says, Amentum announced today that a definitive agreement to merge with Jacobs Critical Mission Solutions and Cyber Intelligence Businesses created a new leader in systems integration and technology solutions trusted by the United States and its allies to modernize their most complex missions around the world. The combined organization will be a publicly traded company with $13 billion in revenue and more than 53,000 employees in 83 countries. Uniting our great organizations, Amentum's CMS and Cyber Intelligence Solutions creates a leading provider of systems integration and technology solutions with the talent, scope, scale, and footprint to deliver excellence and a wider range of solutions for our clients, commented Amentum CEO John Heller. Quote, our combined company will deliver extensive expertise in the government's highest priority areas of energy, space exploration, intelligence and analytics, and digital modernization. We look forward to the union of our strong teams and a bright future ahead, end quote.
Very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of implications going on here.
Right.
All right, now considering Amentum just got a fat new contract with Space Force worth $4 billion, you might want to ask yourself, who do we know that works at Space Force or worked in the past tense at Space Force? Any clues?
Maybe David Grusch.
Lou Elizondo. All right.
A tweet from Mike Colangelo says, Lou Elizondo worked with David Grusch at Space Force. In this clip, that was a part of the News Nation Lou Elizondo interview, Lou calls David Grusch a patriot and a hero for going public, doing the right thing and facing the backlash for it. Lou also says that him and Grusch worked on the UAP topic for Space Force.
This is a dangerous battle you're fighting, Lou. There are forces powerful forces that don't want this story told.
Oh, yeah. And they'll go to great lengths to keep it a secret. Look what happened to poor Dave. You know, I worked with Dave at Space Force. I don't know if that's public knowledge, but I'll say it. What the hell? He and I were working the UAP topic for Space Force for a very good man, a senior guy, very senior guy, by the way. And this was all in the open. So, I mean, this was acknowledged at the time.
All right. So Lou and Dave worked at Space Force together.
Yep.
That was the point of that. All right. But also somebody else who worked at Space Force that is going to become very relevant as we go on with this part of the story is Salvatore Pais. Where do we know that name from? Okay. This is the same Pais that entered the UAP community consciousness because of the so-called Navy patents. And about those patents, guess where Pais was working when they came out?
The Pax River facility that Amentum owns. Mentioned specifically by Matthew Brown, of course. Right.
Okay, let's keep going. A tweet from Music and Truth says, here's another Pax River reference, the Salvatore Pais Project. And a quote from the 2019 article called Docs Show Navy Got UFO Patents Granted by Warning of Similar Chinese Tech Advances that we found interesting says, quote, to say the patent Dr. Pais was awarded is interesting would be underselling it by a few orders of magnitude. In the Drives piece digging into the UFO show that the patent claims the craft can engineer the fabric of our reality at the most fundamental level. I need to read that again. Engineer the fabric of our reality at the most fundamental level. So build our reality. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Sound familiar, no? Does this not sound exactly like what Krastios recently said in his American Golden Age speech? We'll get there momentarily.
Oh, and then there's this 2019 article that oddly has the same name as the last article. That says, the United States Secretary of Navy is listed as the assignee on several radical aviation technologies presented by an aerospace engineer working at the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division headquarters in Patuxent River, Maryland.
Okay, keeping these connections.
Yep. One of these patents describes a hybrid aerospace underwater craft, claimed to be capable of truly extraordinary feats of speed and maneuverability in air, water, and outer space alike, thanks to a revolutionary electromagnetic propulsion system. Sound far-fetched? You're not alone.
So an underwater aerospace hybrid craft.
Yeah.
And that's why this facility is located on the water, so they can easily get this craft in and out of the water. Okay, guys, are you making the connections yet? Let's keep this ball rolling and check out this tweet from Rapid Response 47 that says, U.S. Space Force General Michael G., who Donald Trump appointed to oversee the Golden Dome development, says, quote, Golden Dome is a bold and aggressive approach to hurry up and protect the homeland from our adversaries. We owe it to our children and our children's children to protect them, end quote. Let's hear that for ourselves.
Mr. President, today is a great day for the nation as we double down on protection of the homeland. As you're aware, our adversaries have become very capable and very intent on holding the homeland at risk. While we have been focused on keeping the peace overseas, our adversaries have been quickly modernizing their nuclear forces, building out ballistic missiles capable of hosting multiple warheads, building out hypersonic missiles capable of attacking the United States within an hour and traveling at 6,000 miles an hour, building cruise missiles that can navigate around our radar and our defenses, and building submarines that can sneak up on our shores, and worse yet, building space weapons. It is time that we change that equation and start doubling down on the protection of the homeland. Golden Dome is a bold and aggressive approach to hurry up and protect the homeland from our adversaries. We owe it to our children and our children's children to protect them and afford them a quality of life that we have all grown up enjoying. Golden Dome will afford that. I greatly appreciate your trust in me and your nomination in me and your trust in the team to deliver this. It is a great day for America.
And according to this tweet from Amentum themselves, Amentum's Vice President Mark Henry explores how the Department of Defense Golden Dome initiative is shifting focus towards software and systems integration. Learn how Amentum is driving innovation and shaping the future of missile defense. So, Space Force is also heading up Trump's Golden Dome.
Are you guys seeing how I'm kind of trying to lay all these little breadcrumbs out for you to make some sort of sandwich out of?
Okay.
All right. So what is the Golden Dome, you might ask? So one of President Trump's key campaign promises was a Golden Dome for America, which has the acronym GDA. Like, we don't have enough freaking acronyms to deal with in life already. Inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, the GDA will be a next-generation missile defense system to protect America from the threat of nuclear, hypersonic, and conventional weapons in our homeland. All right, so Space Force just got a brand new contract. Space Force is tied to Amentum.
Yeah.
Space Force has something to do with this Golden Dome. Let's keep going. And a tweet from Kingston Reef says, Golden Dome to include a space layer with space-based sensors and interceptors, an upper layer with GMD next-gen interceptors, and an underlayer with upgraded expeditionary effectors, and a lower tier layer for cruise and terminal missile defense and other advanced aerial threats. So it sounds like this Golden Dome thing is going to be like able to handle anything from like any any incoming angle is what I'm trying to get at here. Oh my God, I'm like flubbing that up. That's all right. Blooper reel live. Cool. However, since the Golden Dome announcement, whispers suggest it's like a lot more than just about missile systems and missile defense. They think that there's like an underlying purpose to this.
Okay. A tweet from Tio Red Octo speculates, in my opinion, the CIA's Golden Dome to spot UAP before anyone else, including the U.S. military, is Pine Gap, Australia, AU. However, since the Golden Dome announcement, whispers suggest it's about much more than just missile defense. And so there's some speculation out there that the Golden Dome is also to track and see UAP before anybody else does.
It's being presented as like a missile defense system, but really it could be UAP detection. Maybe it has like a dualistic thing, but it's definitely not being presented as a UAP detector. It's being presented as a missile defense system.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, what if their intention is to not only detect but be able to take down UAP? Or defend against them if we even need to defend against them.
That's not a far stretch at all. If it's to detect, it's also to defend. I mean, let's just think in military terms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, Trump says that all of this is going to go down during his term.
Yeah, that the Golden Dome will be in place before 3 years.
Yep. Let's hear him say that for ourselves.
Designed for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years.
And then there's many people that are saying that the Golden Dome is basically like ridiculous and that it's not even possible. It seems an impressive feat to bring impossible tech online in 3 years, unless this is part of what Trump and Krastios were talking about when Krastios said this back in April.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
Our technologies allow us to manipulate time and space. I don't think there's any tech that's out right now that can do that. So what is he talking about?
We know.
What is he talking about? Like, what is he talking about?
I mean, it's been theorized that he's talking about gravitational propulsion.
Okay.
I mean, and so another thing that I thought was interesting about what he said there was not only could the technology leave distance annihilated, but it can also cause things to grow. In my mind, I'm thinking if they're able to manipulate time, are they somehow causing time to speed up in like a tiny little localized area, helping maybe plants or whatever grow faster? I don't know. It's just a wild thought, right?
I'm not sure. I never thought about that myself. I never made that connection before. But I think that Krastios is basically describing what Eric Weinstein and Jesse Michaels have been saying. And that's basically that there's a deliberate effort by the CIA and the DoD to suppress public science in areas related to things like physics and propulsion. And he's basically saying that he wants to bring America into a golden era. Golden era. Golden Dome. Notice anything similar yet? All right, let's keep this moving. And of course, who looks like they're square dead set in the middle of all this? Amentum. Which makes sense given they are the parent company to EG&G. Do you guys remember EG&G? We mentioned that on the show before. And who just so happens to have acquired an egg-shaped Class 2 UAP? According to this tweet from Merrick von Rennenkamp that says, Egg UAP at Area 51. Arrow witness alleges, secondhand under penalty of perjury, that CIA brought an egg-shaped craft to Area 51 in the 1980s. Highly cleared EG&G engineers could not gain access and concluded it was, quote, sent here from another planet, end quote. Let that sink in.
Also, something very interesting to note is this tweet from Missile Man that says, this is a firefight job required for the U.S. Antarctic program operating out of McMurdo and the South Pole Station, now administered by Amentum. That doesn't even require a clearance.
So Amentum is running the South Pole Station and hiring for firefighters?
Yeah. What?
Oh my. Okay. So now we're bringing the South Pole Observatory Station, the neutrino detector thing, into the mix. I told you we were going on a detour, but I promise you all these things are going to tie back together. You're going to see it. So interesting to note is that Greer's whistleblower, Eric Hecker, who has also given testimony to Congress, shared the true nature of what he witnessed when he worked at the IceCube South Pole Observatory. Chris Lato took it further with his analysis based on the structure in the video called IceCube's Observatory, a multifaceted directed energy platform. And we highly recommend you check out the video in its entirety, but I have a little clip to show you right now.
So what's interesting to me is Hecker is claiming that the ELF system at the South Pole, which was supposed to be dismantled and not in use, should not have worked at all. He was the electrician and the fire safety guy there. And he said the system was fully energized. You had an ELF system, you have a full facility here. If there's a full ELF facility operating down in Antarctica, that means that what are they using it for? Probably to communicate with the submarine fleet, right? And then if you are testing this other neutrino technology, that would be a great place to now test, because you can communicate with them on ELF. You can test that, and now you can cross-check it with your neutrino communication. The other thing Hecker mentions is that the power is just amazing, unbelievable. He said the amount of power that he assumed or saw actually there needed another power source. So where could you get another power source, right? How could you have another power source here? And you guys are going to laugh, man, but again, what was I thinking is you just hook in a submarine, right? All you really need is another entrance to power this system, right? What's below this? I personally, if it was me, I would have a submarine base down here. You just bring your sub in, and then crank that sucker in, and you have mobile power nuclear reactors. We didn't build anything there. We just happen to have a way to plug in our nuclear reactors that are mobile in our ships that we bring around. And by the way, no one will see it. It'll be under the ice of Antarctica. It's just a perfect place. So, yeah. So assuming that's the case, that would be your military argument for why you would have a submarine detection system, right? Why you would use this IceCube neutrino observatory. Hecker is arguing is that you can also use it, right? If it's detecting neutrinos from any nuclear type of event, he says these craft are also putting out neutrinos. So this could be a detector for long-range space things that we're supposedly looking at. Also, our own nuclear fleet, we could be managing where everyone else's nuclear subs are, right? Every nuclear reactor, you could pretty much triangulate, I believe, using this system on the Earth. Then you can also use it for, you guessed it, UAPs, right? If you have a UAP event, you know where all the submarines are. this thing popped out of nowhere. Shows up out of nowhere nuclear device giving out neutrinos. All of a sudden, now I can identify that as a possible UAP craft, right? And now you can actually use your other techniques that David Grusch mentioned, is to send your troops there, send your forces there, shoot anything down if you're in the proper area, and then bring the retrieval back so that we can maintain our dominance and build more weapons down in the South Pole.
So wouldn't this type of tech be integral to a functioning Golden Dome? I mean, check out this screenshot that someone recently caught from a live stream of the ice cube from a few years ago. What is that? What?
Don't know.
What's going on? Please, somebody explain.
If this really stems from advanced tech, maybe even from non-human intelligence, that can both detect incursions and act as an energy weapon, then that could explain how we've collected the clear, undeniable UAP data that people like Mellon and Elizondo have referenced. But it would also make sense why most of that data is still classified, because we haven't openly acknowledged having that kind of tech yet, at least not directly. It's possible Trump and Krastios are preparing to reveal it, with Trump, of course, claiming credit for it through his so-called Golden Dome.
Not surprising.
No. And what's interesting is the description of that Golden Dome lines up almost exactly with what whistleblower Hecker says Ice Cube is already doing, maybe as part of a much larger hidden network. Don't forget, the stealth tech we officially revealed in the 80s has been in development for 40 years and was likely flying for at least a decade before we even admitted it existed.
The government is known for having tech and hanging on to it. And then by the time we get it, they'd already been using it for like 40-something years. It's old news to them, whereas like for us, it's like, oh, new kitty on Christmas. All right, so enough about weapons. Let's get back on track now that little detour is over, but I hope you see the importance of that little detour that we just took. Moving on to the signature and attached pictures of this tweet, let's start with a Borimon and a Sigillum de Aemeth.
The next reference from Matthew Brown's post that I'm going to talk about, which caused the biggest stir, is the reference to Enochian magic. This is the name Borimon that was referred to, as well as that odd circular symbol with the numbers and letters around it. Both of those things come from this channel. Enochian magic was developed in the Elizabethan era and is credited to largely to an individual known as John Dee. John Dee tried to contact angels through a method called scrying, where you sort of look into a seeing stone and sort of see things spiritually in a non-localized way. You know, crystal ball gazing is kind of like the stereotype of this, but it's actually more complicated than that, but that's a helpful visual for you. He used scrying, claimed to have contacted angels, and the angels gave him communications and downloads where they gave him information for a magical system which would allow him to deepen his contact with them. Using the Sigillum was to communicate with angels to receive divine wisdom, basically. And so that video that I did with the circular symbol was part of the Sigillum de Aemeth. It was sort of the outer rim or circumference of the Sigillum de Aemeth. And if you decrypt the information in that circumference, it gives you a total of 8 names of very high-ranking angelic beings. And one of the 8 is a Borimon. And that is that word that appears in Matthew Brown's post. And then decipher what the name was, I came up with a Borimon as the name. Aaron Leach independently came up with a Borimon as the missing name. And so we were the only 2 people who did that and who really understood the significance of a Borimon for a long time. So who or what is a Borimon? In short, a Borimon represents the forces of chaos and disorder, but under the control of God and unleashed for a very specific purpose at the end of the age in order to renovate the world, basically to sweep away wickedness in the world and prepare the way for the coming of the New Jerusalem. So it's very intriguing that of all the Enochian entities that Matthew Brown could have referred to, he chose to refer to a Borimon because that's got very apocalyptic overtones to it.
All right, so again, very interesting information from Lifting the Lamp. He's talking about Enochian magic. He's talking about a Borimon. He's talking about angel communications to receive divine wisdom. He's explaining the Sigillum de Aemeth even more. And what I want to know is, why did Matthew Brown choose this word, or more specifically name, a Borimon in his tweet? I mean, Lifting the Lamp just flat out said that the Borimon represents the forces of chaos under the forces of God to sweep away wickedness at the end of an era.
Yeah. Let that sink in.
What's going on here? Is this like all 2027 stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like, where are we going with all this? Like, I'm still kind of confused. I mean, it has major apocalyptic tones, which can be kind of creepy, but the word apocalypse actually comes from the Greek word apocalypse, which means to uncover or to reveal. In the Bible, an apocalypse is when someone is exposed to God's perspective, which can be so intense that it changes how they view basically everything. Hashtag ontological shock, right?
Yeah.
It can also refer to a prophetic revelation or the place and time of the final battle between good and evil. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
If you know, you know.
You got to be a 90s kid for that one. All right, let's wrap this up.
All right, let's hear from Lifting the Lamp one last time in the summary of the key points of this tweet.
So if I had to put everything together, all that information that I've unpacked, and determine what it is that Matthew Brown's trying to tell us in his X post, it can be distilled down to a few points. AI is nothing compared to how advanced UAPs are. The UAPs are more spiritual than technological. There is a history of intelligence agencies trying to contact transcendental beings. There is also a link between the UAP phenomenon and the occult. There's evidence to suggest the UAPs are the same thing as the angels of antiquity. Contact has been going on for millennia and could be the origin point of entire religions or spiritual traditions. And the big story when it comes to contact events is telepathic communication rather than the retrieval of technology. The UAP or angelic contact phenomenon also says a lot about our own potential as human beings and our ability to manipulate reality beyond this dimension. There's lots of allusions to gateways into other dimensions and a lot of apocalyptic overtones in what Brown is saying, particularly with reference to the angel of Borimon. And really, I think what Matt Brown is alluding to here is the end of the black iron prison that is currently oppressing all of us and a mass awakening of humanity. And understanding the full history of our communication with these beings is a part of that process. But one sort of last bit of information I want to leave you with, or opinion I suppose, is that these beings, they're only intermediaries. And what they're pointing us towards really is the one that they serve, which is God. And, speaking to God is the original kind of contact with an extra dimensional entity, the original and the best. And I think that that's where Matthew Brown was trying to point us, because in his weaponized interview, when the interviewers ask him, is there any last thing you want to tell people, knowing full well that his life might be on the line, the thing that he chooses to tell us is that there is a God, and to come to realize that fact. Not to worry about whether these beings exist, but that God exists. Ultimately, that is the thing that we need to discover or rediscover.
Look, man, if you were to die tomorrow because of whatever reason, what do you want people to know right now? Like, what do you want people to know if you're just like fucking on?
You are not free. And this reality has far more to it than you have been allowed to believe. And God is real.
All right, so basically there's more going on than what we understand, okay? Angels and demons and aliens can all be the same thing for all we know at this point. I mean, the more I dive in to try to understand this stuff, the more I realize I don't know shit.
Right.
The more I realize I don't know. So yeah, I really appreciate Lifting the Lamp's breakdown of all this stuff. I hope that you guys appreciated all those different places we took you with this story. And yeah.
It's like the whole tweet. I feel like the whole tweet is basically Matthew Brown saying that we are close to some type of apocalyptic event or some type of revelation is coming up. Possibly maybe in 2027, maybe.
And a lot of people are hinting at that. I mean, we're basically on the verge of World War III, like worse than we've ever been before, between what's going on with Israel and Iran.
Right.
And then Chris Bledsoe said something about that the lady told him that when missiles are flying between Israel and Iran, that's when things are going to happen. And I don't know. It seems like we are collectively leading up to something. Like there's a crescendo that's building and the base hasn't dropped yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's
the base hasn't dropped yet. So
that's really what it feels like, you know?
Yeah, like we're leading up to something.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're all in this same ship together, you guys. All ships rise with the tide. So we'll find out together.
Right.
All right. So could occult rituals and ancient symbols really hold the key to modern UFO phenomena? Do you think Matthew Brown's tweet was a personal statement, a warning, or part of a disclosure operation? And lastly, could the connections between Jack Parsons, Sirius, and Roswell reveal a ritualistic origin of UFO contact? Let us know in the comment section below.
All right, guys. So at the time of this recording, I actually have to leave and go to work. So I'm going to go, and Allie's going to finish out the new show, but I have all the confidence in the world that she will do a great job. So
thanks, babe.
Okay. All right. Love you guys.
Up next, Cosmic Ripples, How the Wall Street Journal hit piece shook the UFO community. Greetings, Cosmic Explorers. Last week, we plunged headfirst into the whirlwind stirred by the Wall Street Journal's explosive UFO hit piece, a story designed to shake, stir, and probably even mislead. But the universe has other plans. This week, we're diving deeper into the cosmic currents flowing beneath the headlines, bringing you raw, unfiltered reactions from titans in the UFO research and truth-seeking community. People like Richard Dolan, Ross Coulthart, James Fox, Jeremy Corbell, and more are here to light up the shadows with their insights and challenge the narrative that tries to keep the truth hidden. Prepare for a journey that's part investigation, part cosmic revelation, and all passion for the truth. A tweet from Sentinel News says, breaking news. Documentary director James Fox regarding the Wall Street Journal article. Quote, that is part of the PSYOP. This article is exactly that. It's complete and utter hogwash. End quote. Hogwash. Who uses that word anymore? That's kind of funny. Okay, let's play that video.
That is part of the PSYOP. This article is exactly that. It's complete and utter hogwash. I believe what I know to be true because I've gone around the world investigating the phenomenon, investigating landing cases, crash cases in Brazil. I've been to China, Russia, Australia, South America, Africa. The phenomenon is definitely real. They know it. They can't explain it. And quite honestly, they're in a corner right now. And this has got Sean Kirkpatrick's fingerprints all over it, as far as I'm concerned. Kirkpatrick ran Arrow, which was the UAP task force for a couple of years. He was working closely with Senator Gillibrand and I believe Rounds and Schumer. But he was, and I know this because I was working with firsthand witnesses that had already gone to Arrow and testified in a skiff and given street addresses and names and locations of where this stuff is. And none of those detailed reports, classified detailed reports, wound up being even part of the presentation that he ultimately gave. I think the new guy, John Klasklowski, who's running Arrow now, I think he's going to be a lot more transparent, although he did tell me in a skiff a couple of months ago. I started saying, like, obviously you guys are going to come to the conclusion after a careful review of the data, especially the classified data, that we're dealing with some of this stuff as a non-human intelligence. And he looked at me, he didn't say no. He just goes, James, I can't part my hair without the DOD's approval. And you can quote me on that. These guys are responsible for pushing the launch control officers for a nuclear war. It's like, if that's not a credible report, I don't know what is. I'm telling you right now, the reason why we're seeing these types of articles is this is a significant pushback. These guys are not going to go out without a fight. And the revelation of this phenomenon, of this story, is going to be very difficult for them because, they've got technology, so they're going to have to admit that at some point. They're probably going to have to admit that the phenomenon is real, and yet they won't have. That exposes their vulnerabilities, right? So you've got these objects whizzing around with impunity. They fly rings around our fastest jets, just talk to Dave Fravor, and yet they don't know who they are, where they come from, or what they want. So origins and intent, that's going to be something they don't want to reveal to the general public because for obvious reasons, right? We're vulnerable. Okay, let's assume that they have crash retrieval material, they have bodies. That doesn't necessarily mean they have all the answers. Now, how are they going to disclose that to the general public without sharing that technology? Because let's face it, that technology, the observed technology of UFOs, and you can talk to any fighter or pilot about this, dating back to the modern day wave of the 1940s. Some say obviously earlier than that. They fly rings around our fastest jets. They have no wings, no tail, no visible means of propulsion. They can hover. They can accelerate from a standstill to out of sight in the blink of an eye, right angle turns. If you can weaponize that technology, it's game over, right? So if the Russians, it's a race to see who can get to it first. So I kind of understand the national security aspect of the technology. I mean, we have to admit that we have it. I don't know exactly how we're going to prove that we have it, but that's up to them. But the fact that we're not alone, in my view, and in the view of many others that are pushing for more government transparency, is the right of every man, woman, and child on this planet. And that's one of the reasons why I continue pushing for more transparency.
Amen, James. I really do feel like we all need to keep fighting for transparency. And a quote that I find super perfect and relevant for this exact portion of the story is from Ryan Graves. And that quote says, "The government doesn't have the right to classify reality." Amen on that too. Also, I thought it was really cool that James Fox was pointing out the fact that this is not an isolated incident to the United States. It's happening all over the world, and he's been to lots of different countries and made videos and documentaries about the events that took place in said countries. So the fact that the Wall Street Journal article tried to make it seem like this was just an American psyop is just bullshit. All right, let's move on. In the true spirit of championing transparency, up next, we're diving into a powerful weaponized clip featuring none other than Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. Plus, we'll shine the spotlight on some of my favorite voices lighting up the live chat.
So this Wall Street Journal article, I didn't read it for a day or so. I mean, and then I dived in. I was reluctant to do it. I have to tell you, that reporter reached out to me. He reached out to me a number of times. I did talk to him for about 10 or 15 minutes. And in that short period of time, it became very clear what the marching orders were for this piece, what his theme was going to be. Certainly, the flavor I got from reading it was that this came from Sean Kirkpatrick, this guy who ran the Arrow program for just over a year, and who can't seem to let it go. Thin-skinned guy, he keeps popping back up to dismiss anybody who comes forward with information, to discourage whistleblowers, to lie to Congress, or at least what sounds like lies. And this article, I think, is getting a lot of attention, as I'm sure they knew it would. But it reeks of the same old steaming piles of BS that these secret keepers have been shoveling for decades. They're just adding what seems to be a new layer of excrement on top of what they've already been peddling for a long time. New wrinkles. It struck me as something that was kind of sophisticated, bit of chicanery, and I'm sure it's going to work on some people, maybe on some members of Congress, a few of whom probably were never comfortable digging into this topic to begin with, and now they got a reason to go ahead and walk away from it because the Wall Street Journal says it's all a bunch of baloney. It's mythology.
We've been dealing with this phenomenon since before the Foo Fighters and all of that stuff that was going on during the World War. If this was our technology all along, then we didn't need the Manhattan Project and all that secrecy, all that money. We didn't need that to win the war, and we didn't need the Apollo missions to put us into space. But it does have implications because it is illegal to run a deception campaign against the American people and Congress. Now, I've been in there with congressional members, with whistleblowers, secret meetings where I'm trying to get them heard. If this is a big deception campaign, then people are going to be going down for treason. What's up, Ernie?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Ernie's a great, gifted writer. He's a brilliant writer. Ready Player One was a bestseller book on the New York Times list. Ready Player Two, also a bestseller. Armada was a bestseller. Ready Player One, of course, became a Steven Spielberg film, a hit film, by the way. And that's why Ernie can afford 2 of those cars in back of him there. Ernie, did you get a chance to read the Wall Street Journal piece?
I did not. The Wall Street Journal has proven to be an unreliable publication on this subject. So whenever they sound off, I kind of ignore it.
Makes you think that maybe we really didn't need the F-117 or the stealth bomber or the F-22 or the F-35, hundreds of billions of dollars we spent on them when we've got a super machine that could do everything and more than those machines could do.
or to let a bunch of astronauts and school teachers die on NASA missions in like paper mache spacecraft for a dog and pony show when you've got anti-gravity since the early 60s, at least. That's why you've got to give full amnesty to these jokers, or they're never gonna cop to any of it, because it's too embarrassing and too damning, I think.
I would think that members of Congress, when they see this report, unless they're discouraged and want to walk away from the topic because it's a mess, would want to call some people on the carpet and say, hey, what the hell is this? Because Sean Kirkpatrick, who's the central figure in this story, has appeared before Congress a number of times, publicly and privately, behind closed doors. He hasn't shared this information with them. I would think they'd be pretty pissed off about it.
You would think that, George, that we had this problem in our country called lobbying, which in other countries is called corruption. But here it's legal to bribe our politicians and make your interests their interests with giant showers of money. Therefore, and politicians are all human beings with mortgages and kids got to go to college, and, people can only take so much. And then if they are people of like strong moral character and don't take a payoff, then you have your life threatened.
Shout out Ernie Klein and Ready Player One. I really appreciated his perspective. I thought his comment about the paper mache rockets was, I was about to say it was funny, but really it's sad because, people died on those missions. But anyways, so yeah, Jeremy Corbell, him and George Knapp are on top of this. They too thought it was a bunch of BS. I loved how George was like, just adds layers of excrement. It's like such a such a cool way to say, putting more shit on top of more shit, but whatever. So yeah, I thought that video was cool. And once again, just like the last weaponized clip, if you happen to see your name from the live chat featured in that clip that I made, leave a comment below and let us know. All right, now let's turn the spotlight to Richard Dolan, a leading voice in the UFO community. In this clip, Richard breaks down the Wall Street Journal article, calling it, quote, a complete attempt to recast the entire UFO narrative, end quote, and exposing it as a form of informational warfare. Get ready for a sharp, no-holds-barred take that cuts straight to the heart of the controversy.
The Journal did not shift to inquiry. No, they doubled down on their already chosen position on this. I think what's different with this article is the scale and the intensity of what they're really saying here. This is a complete attempt to recast the entire modern UFO narrative as deliberate Pentagon disinformation. So it's a continuation of the same attitude, but it's louder, maybe. Really, when you look at this article, this is not an actual investigation, which it is billed at. This is a reframing effort. It is really a part of informational warfare. It's not trying to solve the mystery of UFOs. What it is trying to do is bury it, and replacing it with a story that just lets all the institutions off the hook. That's the real takeaway that I get from this. This is less about uncovering the truth. It's much more about managing perception. Who is this being written for? Because the tone, the timing, and the framing suggests to me that this article is not aimed at the general public at all. This was not a story meant to inform. This was a message, and it was a message meant to reassure someone. And to understand that, we really need to look at who that someone is. That someone is Congress. This article did not land in a vacuum. This article arrived just as lawmakers are preparing for another potential vote on the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act, that is, the UAPDA. And if it passes in full, this act will change the landscape permanently. And I am quite convinced this is why you're seeing a sudden push to discredit the entire premise of UFOs happening now. This is about shaping the narrative before that vote. And the other thing you can notice about the article is, I referred to this a moment ago, but the tone. This is a tone that you read it carefully and you can see it. It wasn't really seeking to inform, or certainly not to invite curiosity about the subject. It really sought to humiliate. The narrative, it wasn't we were mistaken. It was you were too dumb to ever believe. And that's a very long established pattern. So when the evidence can no longer be ignored, what does the system do? It shifts to managing the perception, and ridicule is a firewall. Someone recently pointed out to me, Wall Street Journal isn't just a newspaper. This is the mouthpiece of the global financial system. Its job isn't just to report events, it is to stabilize narratives that protect markets and investor confidence and geopolitical dominance by the United States. In that sense, really, this article makes perfect sense. Its job wasn't to explain the UFO mystery. Its job was to contain this mystery. Think of this as a narrative antibiotic. And it's given when the immune system of the established order detects a viral threat, in this case, transparency or disclosure.
All right, so Richard Dolan seems to think that this Wall Street Journal article came out in an exact prime time, basically right before the UAPDA is getting reintroduced, in an effort to get any Congress members that may have been taking this seriously, or who may have been wanting to support the UAPDA, and to sway them into thinking that it's just a bunch of BS. So Richard Dolan seems to think that this article came out directly to thwart the efforts of the upcoming UAPDA. Keep that in mind. We're going to revisit that later. All right. And then he also mentions that it was a viral threat and that, this is something that had to be dealt with. And speaking of viral threats, as mentioned by Richard in the end of that clip, in a clapback article written by Robert Hastings, who is the author of UFOs and Nukes, called New Wall Street Journal UFO Article Badly Misses the Mark, he says, "Indeed, as my 4-decade-long research project has convincingly established, bona fide UFO incursions at U.S. nuclear weapons sites, fissile material production plants, weapon test ranges and storage facilities, nuclear bomber and missile bases occurred as early as January 1945 and as recently as October 2010, and the incidents over that period numbered in the hundreds. Nevertheless, given the embarrassing lack of factual rigor evident in your reporter's recent efforts, I rather doubt that my research findings will be much of assistance to them. Assuming that the article was not an intentional attempt at disinformation, their profound ignorance of the UAP topic, coupled with their clearly unjournalistic bias, renders them unqualified to educate your readers." Okay, Robert Hastings, clap back. Yes, just like Robert Salas wrote his rebuttal and clapped back. It seems like everybody is irritated with this Wall Street Journal article and how they're just basically just trying to change how people see this whole entire field and change the narrative and change the way people think about it, because there's so much evidence against it. It's ridiculous. It's like if you look into what the Wall Street Journal article's claims are for even 5 seconds, you'll realize that there's no way it even make any sense. I mean, EMP testing on live nuclear missiles? Who does that? Who does that? All right. And speaking of fearless journalists, next up is Ross Coulthart, a relentless champion blazing the trail for UAP disclosure and shining the light where others dare not look.
I think this Wall Street Journal story will go down as one of the last gasps of the UFO UAP cover-up cabal's desperate attempts to put their finger in the torrent of leaks now threatening to expose their dirty secret. It's one of the daffiest, wackiest attempts ever by the national security state to explain away the growing evidence for the mystery of anomalous phenomena that is now being far more frequently reported in our skies. It's clear that much of the sourcing for this investigation came from the former head of the Pentagon's UFO investigation efforts, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the immediate past head of AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon that supposedly investigates UFOs. This was Dr. Kirkpatrick's big chance to get square with his many critics, to use one of the most influential papers in the United States, the august Wall Street Journal, no less, a pillar of the financial establishment, to put a stake through the heart of what are now multiple first-hand allegations, witnesses alleging that the United States has secretly recovered non-human alien technology, and that there's been a multi-decades-long collaboration between those in the know, in government, the military, the intelligence community, and a select group of private corporate aerospace companies involved in working with this retrieved tech. I don't think it's any coincidence that this dim-witted, moronic, block-headed Wall Street investigation appeared online at almost the exact time that another former senior Pentagon official entrusted with investigating UAPs, Jay Stratton, went loud and hard at the SCUAP conference at Huntsville with a detailed speech elaborating on past admissions he's made as a former director of the Pentagon's UAP task force that he is a first-hand witness to non-human intelligence. Quote, "I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings," says Jay Stratton. That's pretty definitive. You will never read that anywhere in the Wall Street Journal, which has made it very, very clear with this story that it is happy to be a craven, toady mouthpiece for the national security state. So what does this Wall Street Journal story really mean? What the hell is going on? Is it really the death knell, as Dr. Kirkpatrick clearly hopes, for the claims of a UFO UAP conspiracy cover-up? Or is it more likely what I suspect it is, disinformation masquerading as disclosure?
All right, Ross, tell us how you really feel. I love Ross Coulthart, man. That guy does not hold back. I love the way he says things. He says disinformation masquerading as disclosure. I mean, yeah. And in that video clip, which I highly recommend you guys go and watch the whole entirety of, he brings on a guy named Mario Woods, who was at a different nuclear military facility when a UFO shows up. He saw a really large red, orangey glowing thing appear. And then there's an aspect of the story where him and somebody else, I believe, were like in 1 minute they're in one location and then they wake up and they're in a totally different location, like 10 miles away from where they originally were. And they're like plopped in the middle of like a field or like a muddy area or something. And there's like no tire tracks around the area to prove that like they drove there. It looks like they were just kind of maybe, dropped off by a UFO. And there's missing time. There's like hours of missing time to this guy's story. So he too said that he would go on the stand and testify under oath that his story and everything that he's been saying about what occurred is true. And also Robert Salas said the same thing, that he would also be willing to go on the stand under oath and testify. So, I mean, this article is bringing out some really strong, powerful players that have some really compelling stories and receipts to back it all up. Receipts, guys. Receipts is where the action is at. And finally, we're turning to Jesse Michaels of American Alchemy, who's ready to spill the tea on a sizzling op-ed co-authored by a former presidential cabinet member, a piece the Wall Street Journal is sitting on and refusing to release. And trust me, we know exactly who's pulling the strings behind this blockade.
This is all sort of beautiful, though. The Wall Street Journal has really backed themselves into a corner. I suggest they either prove the existence of these hazing programs in a follow-up article, because extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, or at the very least, they support what I'm about to propose. A class action lawsuit under the Federal Tort Claims Act. Every UFO witness whose career has been significantly disrupted for their speaking out about this issue, or mental health has been disrupted by optical illusions in the sky or whatever hazing rituals this article is proposing, should be granted millions of dollars for being hazed by our own government. Last year, my friend Carl Nell, Army representative of the UAP task force, who helped spearhead many of the Army's most important tech modernization efforts, wrote an op-ed intended for the Wall Street Journal. The opinion piece was co-authored by a former cabinet member. You heard me right, like presidential cabinet member. The essay expressed a deep frustration at the lack of transparency and civilian oversight with UFO-related programs in government. Again, a cabinet member co-authored this. And we also have emails between Carl Nell and the Wall Street Journal about it. It is a fact that this article was written and it was proposed for publication, but the op-ed section refused to publish this article for no apparent reason. When I politely expressed my confusion around this, I was told something very telling. Lena told me that a guy named David Spergel is their de facto advisor on UFOs. And he says that UFOs are all space trash, light reflections, and temperature inversions. This is almost exactly what past UFO debunkers like Don Menzel would say in the 50s.
First of all, the objects are not unidentified. We know what they are.
Menzel happened to hold extremely high clearances at the NSA, CIA, and Navy. He was also caught destroying astronomical records by fellow astronomer Dorit Hoffleit, as she documents in her biography.
In 1953, Don and Menzel also stopped the astronomers at Harvard to carry out their very famous sky survey where they were monitoring the entire sky. He also had apparently some more later episodes of plate destruction, I've heard.
And who knows, maybe Spergel has nothing to do with UFOs. Maybe the Wall Street Journal genuinely believes the bullshit about EMPs they're promoting. But it's just so weird to me that they've been working on a UFO-related story for months and neglected to mention that a cabinet member was involved in a UFO-related op-ed proposal that they received last year. So bad faith acting, incompetence, I'll let you decide. I'll just end on this note. If UFOs are all just some fake, multi-decade long hazing ritual, then nobody should have any issue with the impending UAP Disclosure Act. Who cares if we have civilian oversight over programs that don't exist? And hopefully when the UAP Disclosure Act goes up for vote again, Sean Kirkpatrick won't lobby against it like he did last time.
All right, so it looks like we got another blocker and we got another gatekeeper going on here. This Spiegel guy seems to be blocking this op-ed from getting posted in the Wall Street Journal. And the only thing I have to say about that is why? For what purpose? Why are you blocking it? I mean, if you had a presidential cabinet member co-authoring this op-ed, you'd think that that would like hold some kind of weight, hold some kind of credibility, give them a reason to publish it. But seems like, you know, this Spiegel guy, whatever his name is, he's blocking it. It's giving me Susan Go vibes. It's giving me Sean Kirkpatrick vibes. It's giving me WTF vibes. All right. So again, in this clip also, Jesse Michaels also calls for a UAPDA call to action. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Wall Street Journal's controversial UFO story and the powerful reactions it's ignited, one thing is clear. The quest for truth is far from over. Behind every headline and every shadowy silence lies a complex web of agendas, revelations, and unanswered questions. It's up to all of us truth seekers and curious minds alike to keep peeling back the layers and demanding transparency beyond the spin. So before you go, here's a couple questions I want you to ponder. First one, how do you think media narratives shape our collective understanding of the UFO phenomenon? Who do you believe holds the real power when it comes to controlling the flow of information about UAPs? And lastly, what's your vision for the future of disclosure? Are we on the brink of something monumental, or is the truth still being buried deep? Make sure to go to the Lato Files Discord server and share your thoughts with the community there. An invite link can be found in the video description box below, so make sure to check that out, along with all of the other sources that appear in the story in the order that they appear. So please make sure to take advantage of that and check it out. And last but not least, the final push, how you can help pass the UAPDA. All right, Star Family, to close out tonight's show, we're not just talking headlines, we're talking action. In the last story, both Jesse Michaels and Richard Dolan underscored the critical importance of a powerful piece of legislation flying just under the radar, the UAP Disclosure Act, or UAPDA. They each expressed not only the urgency of this bill, but also the need for immediate public action to help push it forward. This bill could finally force open the vault doors and end more than 75 years of secrecy around the unidentified anomalous phenomena. The U.S. government has kept the public, scientists, and even Congress in the dark long enough. But now we have a rare window of opportunity. Senator Mike Rounds is reintroducing the UAPDA, and your voice could be the one that tips the scales. This isn't just politics. This is about truth, accountability, and the future of our shared reality. A tweet from New Paradigm Institute says, "Tell Congress, pass the UAP Disclosure Act. For more than 75 years, the U.S. government has concealed information about unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP, keeping Congress, scientists, and the public in the dark. But the era of secrecy can end if Congress passes the UAPDA. Senator Rounds will soon reintroduce the UAPDA. Now is the time to demand transparency, accountability, oversight, and answers. The UAPDA will launch a government-wide review and declassification effort, empowering Congress and the public to finally understand what's been hidden for decades. Take action now. All right, and like I asked you guys last week, when you do go and contact your congresspeople and sign that petition, please come back and leave a comment that says UAPDA all day. That will let everybody know how you support this and that you are being part of the movement to push disclosure forward. And if you've ever looked up at the night sky and felt that there's something more out there, now is the time to speak up. Call your representatives, email them, post about it, tag them, share this video, remind them that they work for us and that we want the truth. And that concludes this week's UAP Society's weekly UAP News Show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity. All right, peeps, much love, peace, and namaste.